Welcome to JSA TV, where we're covering the latest news, trends, and innovations from thought leaders from within the digital infrastructure space. I'm Dean Perrine, and we are coming at you live. That's right, Mark. We are live at PTC 2026 in beautiful Honolulu, Hawaii. And the man to my right needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. Mr. Mark Gusakov. Mark is the CEO of the Data Center Alliance. Mark, how are you?
Fantastic. And I'm a little tired. I'm not sunburned. I am not sand swept. But otherwise, in great spirits, high energy, wonderful.
You know, I like that you're no longer in a knee brace. You look happy, healthy. Life looks like it's treating you well.
Indeed, I have two legs and they both function. So thank you very much for that. And it's a little easier to walk around and be mobile.
For sure. How's the show going for you?
Busy, as always. A little more organized than previous years. I think the path to success is probably better suited for not setting yourself up back to back in every single meeting, but then also being able to cater to the people that are walking around and get some foot traffic going. But that's the secret to this thing.
You know, it's funny you should say that. Not funny, like hilarious, but it's funny because we have meetings we have scheduled and they're back to back to back. And then there's those impromptu meetings where you're like, Bill, I haven't seen you in 364 days.
Exactly.
How's it going? And then you have that meeting, and then you're moving on, and you're on. And I think that's one of the beauties of PTC is that the environment lends itself for those kinds of impromptu meetings as well.
The worst thing you can do at PTC is when someone sees you and you go, yeah, well, let's catch up after PTC. Those connections never happen. Yeah. No one ever talks unless you're sitting down, meeting, you're working on something together, and then at the end of it, you're collaborating. But when you go just past somebody, oh, let's catch up after PTC. Nah, you see them at the next event. That's just how it is. It's out of sight, out of mind.
Those interpersonal relationships, it's still about that. Despite all of the stuff that would lead us to believe otherwise, it is still the most important thing that you can do is establish those relationships, maintain them, be human, be vulnerable, have a good time, that kind of stuff. We've got an actual interview to conduct.
I forgot. I'm
gonna go there.
Stuff here?
Yeah.
Here,
so
let's do it.
Look, you're the CEO. You're the head honcho, the grand poobah of the Data Center Alliance. Why don't you tell our viewers a little bit about the Data Center Alliance?
Well, I couldn't have gotten a better lead up to what you were saying about relationships, right? So really, that's what it's all about. We're people working within the people environment to ultimately accomplish a goal together. Mm-hmm. And the Data Center Alliance was founded so that we are bridging the gaps between where people are able to work, not able to work. And our ultimate goal is to eliminate these false perceptions that people have around competition in the industry. Mm-hmm. There is so much business going on right now within the digital infrastructure ecosystem that we all have enough of the pie to share in. So what we want to do is start breaking some of those gaps down. We work with so many people across the board. We've got over 25 contracts with different agencies, entities, and people all throughout the entire global digital piece within this. Mm-hmm. And the best thing that we can do is just continue to support the betterment of the industry. The ultimate goal for what we do, continue to support the betterment.
All boats
of
rise.
This industry. That's it. Yeah. And you rise with them. And we're lifting everybody. Yeah. And if you don't, and everybody's pushing from the top down, you're just sinking. We're not sinking.
Yeah. And ain't nothing getting done in that environment.
Floating and flying. That's where we're at.
I love it. But Mark, you've got your fingerprints on more than simply the Data Center Alliance. Sure. Let's talk a little bit about your work with the Nomad Futurist, specific to kind of the talent gap in the industry. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, crazy thing. I mean, I think years ago when I was first on the show, I don't remember if it was like maybe DCD, Virginia or something like that. And we were talking about what the workforce deficit looked like. 3 years ago, that workforce deficit was like 350,000 people in skilled jobs were going to be needed by 2030. Yeah. That number's like 450,000 now, and all we've done is just shorten it by 3 years, but the number's climbing. So we're still not fixing it. We still have that deficit. When you look around at people that have skilled labor and people that are trying to put people in other roles and positions and do remote jobs, I mean, all of that stuff is starting to play in. Mm-hmm. Nomad Futurist's goal is to provide that ecosystem of people to come together and provide training for the emerging talent. Yeah. And emerging talent could be me. I still don't have 5 years in this industry yet, shockingly enough. But it could be young people, students that are graduating, and it could be people who are transitioning, from military service, which is another, basket that we have, or people like me that came from another industry and are entering. But it's important to get everyone speaking the same language, talking the same talk, right? Because when we say things like cracks and craws and mops and sops, it starts going over people's heads and they don't have a complete understanding of it. It's our goal. We've created we now have an academy. It's live on the website. It's free to the world.
Yeah.
So everyone can use this. Everyone can benefit from this. And we hear things from people, oh, you're competing with us. How do we compete with you? It's free. Like there's nothing that we're doing
but we
that's
charge
competition.
For ours. That's not fair.
Yeah, shouldn't be able to not charge it for it. But the goal is to start really empowering people within the industry to give them that basic knowledge so that when they come in, they're comfortable and they can speak the same language within that ecosystem.
Yeah, no, I love it. We did have Phil and Nabil on your buddies yesterday. You may have heard of them.
Phil and,
and they were talking about all of the successes that you've all had
Founders,
over the last year or so. So congratulations to you and the other nomads on
look
work.
How far it's come. I mean, Phil and Nabil started this whole thing, podcasts like this. Two guys sitting around talking turkey, and then, hey, we've got a goal, we've got an idea, we've got a vision. I wonder if there's something like that for you and I.
Possibly. But hey, nobody leaves this seat without talking about power, the challenges around power.
Hot seat.
So I'm gonna start that conversation by reminding you of a conversation that you and I had maybe 2 years ago now, because with regard to the challenges around power, at one point it was just like we were like, well, renewables and those kinds of things, and then on the other side it was just like nuclear is the future.
Yeah, right.
That's what's going to happen. But somewhere in probably the last 2 or 3 years, collectively we have said yes. But also there are all of these other kind of intermediate steps, innovations that absolutely must occur before we get there. Let's talk about the power challenges and what you're seeing and kind of where things are ultimately going over the next year to 5 years.
Great question. So I want to start with maybe an anecdotal story. We didn't really plan on this, but a year ago, I was at the American Nuclear Society Summit that they held in Chicago. While I was there, the interesting thing to me was all these panel discussions that they were having were very similar to ours around AI. Mm-hmm. When's it coming? What are we doing with it? How are we using it?
Yeah.
And when we talk about that in our industry, we're talking about how to deploy it at scale. When they talk about it, they're talking about how are they going to use it after it's deployed at scale, right? So I come in and I'm like, you guys are already talking about how to spend all my money.
There's a cart and horse here.
Yeah, we haven't. Yeah, carrot and stick, even if you will. So the interesting part of what I brought to that discussion was you get your AI when I get my power. Mm-hmm. So part of what we need to do is start thinking about what does that bridging solution look like. And natural gas definitely, in my opinion, is the front runner for what we're doing and how we're looking to get there. But we also can't overlook things like geothermal that are starting to emerge, battery power, which is starting to get better, solar, hydro. Well, I mean, God, as far as I'm concerned, hydro is the ultimate solution, but people aren't able to tie into it. So there isn't always running water everywhere. It isn't flowing water coming from a guy from Buffalo, New York and Niagara Falls. A lot of that power doesn't stay in my area. It goes to New York City.
There aren't any ocean currents in the middle of the desert.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you deploy solar where there are no ocean currents. You come up with alternate resources. So from that perspective, I mean, a lot of what I'm seeing is we're starting to come together and work with people. I mean, I give a shameless shout out to, the folks over at Oklo who are coming up with a solution to be able to deploy. They're at INL right now.
Talking with them later today.
And make sure that you ask them what they're doing at Idaho National Labs. They have a field. They're actually doing a deployment. They're starting with the research side. They've got fuel. Mm-hmm. They've really got their ducks in a row. Allo on the modular side, Allo is making these nuclear deployments that are they're modular and fixated and put together. Mm-hmm. And then you've got like Inio Yenbacher. Inio is actually doing the next advent around getting natural gas deployment and partnering with these people. Yeah. There we go. All of a sudden, everybody's coming together and working together. There's no, we're not going to sell you that because you're eventually going to put nuclear in and get out. Well, once you get an on-prem gas solution done, and then you put natural gas behind it, I'm sorry, you get natural gas put in, and then you put nuclear on top of it. Yeah. Natural gas becomes your backup. Yeah. It's that simple. Yeah. I mean, this is a great plan, and people are starting to work together.
And it doesn't. Yeah. So like there's the kind of hybrid approach to that, but also it's not necessarily a hybrid approach if it is just an incremental step towards the ideal solution.
Right.
It actually just becomes the best backup solution that you have.
You have to have that. And then everything else around it starts to become that backup solution, even though people aren't, building to resilient standards like they were in the past. And
that's how progress is quite literally made across all industries and all innovations, But anyway, so thank you. Power, done. We're checking that off.
What's next?
Yeah. So power. So we cannot talk about power. We cannot talk about builds. We cannot talk about technology and innovation without talking about when's it going to happen. How quickly can I get this done? So speed to deployment, time to operation, all of those kinds of things, big conversations that I've had over the last 2 days.
Yep.
I want to talk to you about that, but as it relates to responsible growth, as it relates to growth that is sustainable, both environmentally and fiscally.
Sure.
So, what does responsible growth look like to you right now?
That's a great question. And ultimately, one of the main goals of what we're doing at the Data Center Alliance, we have a lot of people coming to us asking us for input and help around what we're seeing, what we're doing, and how we're experiencing things within the market. Mm-hmm. So as we start working with these partners, work with clients, work with trusted resources, work with vendors, really crossing all those divides to start bringing those folks together and get people at the table. People are coming to us and saying, I don't have a resource for transformers in a timely fashion, or I don't have a resource for gas, or hey, what are you seeing in this, in this part of the world that's different than what you're working on here? The other cool thing, my friend Brian Smith, who, from Idaho National Labs, I think he's the CTO now, Chief Technology Officer for Idaho Labs, just got promoted. People ask he and I to go travel to them and put on summits and symposiums and seminars to talk about this thing. And that's all over the place. So the U.S. is actually starting to support other nations and being able to do that. Our nuclear commission has been keeping right up with research, although we haven't had commercial deployment in 20 years or so. We are actually keeping up with the research side of that, which is great. There are other countries that are beating us on deployment, but if we were finding ways that we could start working together and be a little more responsible about it and share some of the ideas and share some of the knowledge, we become wealthier together and a little tighter in the bond. Yeah. So ultimately, the goal with the Data Center Alliance is how do we keep people together and supporting the same goals so we're not duplicating efforts and we're not all doing the same thing, pulling in opposite directions. It's really about pulling in the same direction for the common good, for the betterment of the industry.
Yeah, no, man. I mean, I'm picking up everything that you're putting down, and I like that people component because we don't get it. We don't talk about it enough. It is not just about bringing the right technologies together. It's not about bringing the right innovations together. It's about bringing the right people together, establishing those long-term committed relationships, committed to a positive, productive, fruitful future for everyone.
There was a thing that I did years ago, right when I first started in this industry. I was like on the job for 3 days, and there was a DSIM company that was talking about what they did and how they did it within the industry. And highly coincidentally enough, that's kind of where I came from in my past life, but in manufacturing. And what we used to say in that world was we took the people, the systems, and the machines, and then that thing brought all of those pieces together. They were very disparate systems, and they didn't look at each other, and they didn't work within the ecosystem. But what we did and what our job was to bring all those pieces together so they worked. Now, the toughest part of that was the people part, because the system is documented and it's written down. The equipment, the machines, that's fixed, But the people part is, are you doing the right job? Is the right butt in the right seat to do this job? Did we make the right hire? Are they trained right? Is there turnover? What's leadership like? And as you start going through this, you look and you say, this is the biggest variable in our entire process. But it's the only thing that you can't remove from the equation.
That's it.
That keeps the thing running.
Yeah.
So you can have people and machines without systems, and you can still execute work. You can have systems and machines, and nothing works because there's no people to do it, right? That's a huge part of it. It's the people that start bringing this together. And I'm a people person from the office. I'm a people person.
As long as I've known you, you have been. Mark, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me.
You bet.
This is always my favorite thing to do.
Oh,
and with my identical twin.
That's so kind of you. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Gusakov, Mayor of the Digital Infrastructure Industry. Mark, thanks again, buddy.
Thanks so much, Dean.
And thank you, viewers, for watching JSA TV. We'll see you real soon.